Hello, everybody. On this episode, we talk about vacation homes, showing etiquette, curb appeal, and I'm joined by another beard. Hello, everybody. This is Ray, and this is episode 15 of the Real QA Show. So thanks for tuning in with another very special show. Nathan James from Epoch Church is here. Nathan also goes way, way back with me. Pre-beard, both of us actually.
That's right. I love that, pre-beard. PB.
That's right. We went to high school, elementary school together, so he knows me pretty well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Like Ray said, we do know each other and have for a while. I work downtown at a church, Epoch Church, EPOCH. We're definitely not the EPIC church, but have enjoyed being there for 12 years now. Isn't that crazy?
Really?
Yeah. And so loving being there, and they hadn't kicked me out. And so if anyone's out there looking for a church community, check us out online, epochchurch.org, cool. And we'd love for you to come see us.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, yeah.
And without further delay, let's get into the show.
Sure. Got some questions that I get to read and have you give us all your wisdom. So Christine Halverson from liveworksiliconbeach.com asks on Facebook, do you have second home buyers in your market?
Second home buyers, vacation home buyers, mainly in the Hot Springs area, Eureka Springs area. That's where we see most of the second home buyers, kind of in the more vacation spots of Arkansas. So there's not as many. However, places like Airbnb and things that have made it really easy for someone who owns a second home to rent it out has started opening up that market a little more than it used to be. You had to hire somebody to manage that for you and go through all that rigmarole. Nowadays, you don't have to do all that, especially if you know someone in the area. You can kind of get by with it cheap. So there aren't as many, though. A lot of Arkansans own second homes elsewhere. So I would say we have a lot of second home buyers in our market, but they're not necessarily buying the second home here. They're buying in Florida, California, places of Texas. We have a lot of Little Rock and Central Arkansas second home buyers who are buying in Northwest Arkansas because, of course, the Razorbacks play there. So there's a lot of people that go to the condos and things like that during that time of year. So that's pretty cool. I would say the most common second home buyer in Little Rock would be an investor. So they're buying a second home, yes, but they're looking to flip it or rent it out or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
What about downtown lofts? Are there some of that?
So downtown lofts, there are a lot of them that are professionals. I know a couple of people who live in Cabot or more closer to Hot Springs, and they have a second home in Little Rock in the lofts and some of those condos, the really nice condos downtown. And they have their second home there because everything's maintained. They don't have to mow. They don't have to do anything. They just show up. They can enjoy the city, and then they check back out when they want to. So that's a great follow-up question. We do see some of that.
And some good real estate popping up that's affordable, I think, down there too, which is neat. Very cool. Freelance app developer and web designer Chris Brocious asks, why on earth do you have to pay title insurance and lender's title insurance?
Very good question. So when you go to buy a home, title insurance makes sure that no one else has a claim to your property. Okay. So in the real estate contract, there's 4 options for title. One is that you and the seller will equally split the cost. Another one is that the seller will cover the seller's owner's policy, which means they're promising the new buyer that no one else has a claim against the property. And then the buyer will purchase a policy for their mortgage, right? So I think that's more what he's talking about. Why are there these 2 policies that seemingly cover the same thing? Well, in reality, the mortgage company is not a party to the contract, and a mortgage is optional. So someone paying cash for the house would not have to pay for a title policy for the lender because they're paying cash. So that's a third party. So they would only have to cover their own title policy, which the seller is usually buying for them. So it's just a promise that no one else has a claim to the property. And in order to make it, I guess, legal, there's probably some attorney somewhere and there's probably a court case somewhere that set this precedent to where you would have to buy a second policy. The buyer has to buy the second policy, or the seller can pay for that second policy for the mortgage company that is not a party to the contract. Does that clear as mud?
Yeah. No, I think that's good. So basically, Chris, we got to pay cash.
Yeah, there you go. Cash is king.
Kaylee Creed with Allstate asks on Facebook, how can you bring more curb appeal to your home?
Awesome. So basics are mulch. Throw mulch in all your flower beds. Do annual flowers, perennial flowers, seasonal flowers. You don't want your bushes to be over the window ledges, so trim all your hedges, make sure they're lower. These days, fuller flower beds were more popular. I think probably about 10 years ago, we kind of went through this phase where you would have a perfectly manicured bush and then another one here and then a couple of flowers. It was very, nowadays, fuller flower beds are more in style. The kind of the wilder look, you know, you have wildflowers planted in there, ground cover planted in there. So all those things can go a long way, basically making your flower beds look amazing. Other than that, I've seen some homes where their curb appeal is affected because the gutters are like this. So you want to make sure everything on the house is right, gutters, shutters, all those things, that they're straight and good, and just keep it mowed and edged, and I think you're all good. So
awesome.
There you go.
So we don't have to landscape the lawn as much. That's nice.
No.
Keep it looking good though. RJ Martino with iProv asks, if you pull up to a home and you don't like it, is it proper to go ahead and see the house anyway, or should you go ahead and call the agent and cancel?
Okay, so if you're my client, I'm already working with you, we're already showing several properties, and we pull up to a house together, and you know immediately this is a no. You know, maybe it's something with a curb appeal perhaps, right? So if it's an immediate no, you do not have to go in and show the property. As an agent, we can cancel the showing, and the other agent will call their sellers, let them come home early. I tend to tell my buyers that sellers would love to come home early knowing that you've not decided to buy their house than to wait an hour to learn later that you've not decided to buy their house. So if you know right away, then I would say call your agent or tell your agent and say, hey, let's go to the next one. Now, if this is the first home you've ever seen and you've just started your home search, you might want to go see it for your benefit. Even though the outside is a no, you might want to walk through, you might want to meet with the agent. You can learn a lot from that initial meeting with an agent, the initial showing. You'll know if you'll want to work with that agent. You might find some things in the house that you didn't think about wanting or that you didn't think about not wanting, right? Maybe you picked that house because of something on the inside that you saw that you liked, and then you go in and look at it and say, yeah, we don't like that after all. So I would say if it's your first home that you're seeing, go ahead and see it. Go ahead and meet the agent, but that's more for you. If you've seen a lot of homes, you just know immediately this is not going to work for our family, then cancel the appointment, let the seller come home. Cool. Is that all the questions?
Yeah, I think that's all the ones we have
Awesome.
for this episode.
Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
We've talked a little bit about PMI. Nobody likes to pay PMI
Right.
on a home. And so if you move into a home and you renovate it,
Okay.
how can you kind of figure out when to know to push your mortgage company in such a way that they would drop the PMI?
That's a great question. So once you move into a home, when can you drop your mortgage insurance premium? A mortgage insurance premium is put on any properties that have a loan to value ratio that is 80% or less. So once you get 20% down, or once you have 20% of equity, you can actually get out of mortgage insurance premium. So your question specifically is, if you're renovating a property and you've put money into the property to improve its equity more than 20%, right? So your equity position has improved to like 21%, then how do you, or when do you tell your mortgage company? I would go ahead and tell them immediately when you finish. The lender that you purchased the home through is somebody that can definitely kind of keep an eye on that for you and let you know when it's time. Different loans have different rules for that. So if I think a conventional mortgage, some of them require 2 years. Like we recently purchased a remodel and we have 2 years of mortgage insurance that we will be required to pay. And then after that, it will drop off once they reappraise the house and look at the equity position and know that it's changed. For an FHA loan, it will not drop off. So an FHA loan requires mortgage insurance and you have to keep it on for the life of that loan. So you have to refi out of the FHA in order to take that off. So a little bit of it depends on the loan type. A little bit of it's going to depend on the mortgage company and some of their rules and regs. But in general, I think most of the time you have 2 years to wait. and then you can go ahead and refi and take that off.
Awesome.
Awesome. Do you have a question for the community?
Sure, I got a good one. When you think about investment properties, and I wish I was there, but I'm not, but I love thinking about this. The question would be, in today's climate and market, would it be best to buy a home and flip it? Or would it be best right now in this climate to buy it and rent it?
Nice. So buy and hold versus buy and flip. Great question.
There you go.
Very good.
Something to think about.
Well, thanks again for joining us on the
Thanks
show.
for letting me be here. It's an honor.
Yeah, again, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, epochchurch.org. And hey, loved working with you, Ray. And I don't have to say that. I get to say that. So appreciate it. And thanks for putting up with us. And hope you guys will be willing to consider not just him, but this stuff he's saying is great stuff. So thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And again, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for submitting your questions. We cannot have this show without you. So if you do have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Send us a message on Facebook, or you can even text me personally. So thanks again for watching. We appreciate it.